Hello, this is a video from the Angry Photographer. I'm going to be going over most all of Nikon's DSLRs so that you can make a logical decision, and I'm trying to save you money. What will not be included in this is a rundown of the specs of each camera. There are 10,000 plus websites where you can compare and contrast X model of Nikon with Y model of Nikon. You don't need me for that. I'm offering my experience and logical conclusions, and trust me, I have actually beat myself over the head on making this video, so I'm not setting things up and jumping to any conclusions such that what I'll provide you in this video should be unassailable and perfectly logical and working from the premise of what you need or getting the best bang for your dollar. Obviously, I cannot make a conclusion deterministic upon whether you're a professional, advanced amateur, or just an evening shooter. These are some decisions you'll have to make on your own based upon whether you can use it as a tax write-off, say you're a real estate photographer, and an extremely expensive camera is no big deal. In such case, then obviously you know, that's a consideration that lies outside of what I can tell you here. Also, what your budget is. What I can tell you as far as the best recommendation to make on these Nikon cameras, that I will give you an informed, extremely logical conclusion, and herein you'll find some helpful information to be sure, even though I may be long-winded at times as far as what you can get. Need to start off by talking about what it is within your budget and talk about 3 different groups. And also importantly, by the way, I just brought out some of my Nikon DSLR cameras. Foremostly, this information changes. Now, you'll some invariably say, well, you did not recommend the D750 before in some of your mentions and posts, and that is true, but things change. The flare issue has been taken care of, and I don't know who Nikon's been listening to, but I've been preaching it loudly, that the D750 at its prior $2,200 plus price tag was a bad purchase, and that I still stick to. However, things have changed radically, and in the bracket of $1,200 to $2,000 to be spent in your budget of the purchase of a Nikon DSLR, I give the Nikon D750 a top recommendation. While my favorite camera may be the Nikon D810, and the fact that I have 3 D7100s and a pair of D810s and 3 D7100s, and my favorite oldie back there, the D700, I will leave my subjective feelings aside, because while the Nikon D810 is $3,000, the current cheapest price that it can be acquired for is $2,500. I cannot give it, my favorite camera, a recommendation to you unless it is A, within your budget, or B, can be written off on taxes. I will be making an objective group of statements regarding what you have, and talking about the groups and prices and what is the best bang for your buck. So I want you to understand that I will leave myself aside on this, and that is why I have you know, thought about this and gave it a great deal of forethought, so that I'm thinking in a broad spectrum for what you have, what you can spend, and also the best of what you can get, and also to dissuade you from recommending certain models. Let's start off at the $300 to $500 range of cameras. And in this group, this might make some people upset. Now, I have used all these cameras that I do not own currently. I did have 2.5 week use of the Nikon D750. The flare issue has been resolved and the price has dropped drastically, but the same thing with the D3200 and the D3300. I cannot recommend either the D3200 or the D3300. Given the fact that both are respectively can be had in gray markets for $260 and $330, I cannot in any way, shape, or form, even if you have a very tight budget, recommend at all the Nikon D3200 or the D3300. For a mere $100 more, roughly, the second best choice within that $300 to $500 range would be the Nikon D5200. For another $100, you say, well, I've only got $330 and that's enough for me to buy a 3300. Why can you not recommend me to buy a D3300? And whether you may or may not like the answer to it is that I suggest that you wait and save up another $100 and purchase a 5200, or actually my top choice within that range, which is the Nikon D5300. Now the Nikon D5200 can be had new for $350 US, and the Nikon 5300 can be had for $460. That is my top choice in the $300 to $500 range. The D5300 for $460 if you are on a limited budget and you don't have enough money to spend on a DSLR, and you have other expenses and whatnot. That is a top choice within the $300 to $500 range. And I suggest, even if you are considering the D5200 for $350, then an additional $100 is recommended in saving for the D5300. I cannot repeat, recommend the Nikon D5500, which can be acquired new for $600 gray market. While all of these cameras have exceptions that you might find somebody that is desperate for money and is selling something insanely cheap, there obviously are exceptions, but I cannot recommend the Nikon D5500, the reason being that for an additional $100 over the cost of a new 5500, the purchase of either a Nikon D700 or a Nikon D70-100 for $700 to $750, whether it's a factory refurb or a gray market. Currently the Nikon D70-100 is at $700. Obviously also so, now that the D70-200 is out, and which I did many hours of review on yesterday, and the price is going to drop. Now I can say it now or a couple months from now, or Christmas time is probably more likely when Nikon, I cannot obviously speculate on the future that Nikon will drop the price on the D70-100, but it is coming, and coming soon. What soon means is a good question, but at its current price, top recommendation within the $600 to $1,000 range is the Nikon D70-100. It still remains the case. The cheapest a Nikon D70-200 can be had for is $930. And after hearing from my buddy Stefan, and hearing from other viewers, and actually having done several hours of on-hand testing yesterday, I cannot recommend the D70-200 unless it is with the caveat that you are a sports and mostly low-light shooter. The D70-200 is exactly what Nikon shooters had asked for. They asked for a high ISO performer that doesn't have banding in high ISO, which the 70-100 has the possibility thereof, although I never encountered because I'm not shooting in extremely high ISO with my 70-100. However, some sports shooters and low-light shooters did and have demanded that of Nikon, and Nikon delivered on what the consumers asked for. The D70-200 should specifically be called the D70-100S. S standing for sports, or 70-100A for action, or actually D70-200 SL, meaning sports and low light, because it's exactly what it is. It has two things primarily. Obviously it has Wi-Fi and NFC, but the D70-200 primarily has a new sensor. It has better performance in high ISO, and it has a larger buffer rate, which makes it perfect for sports and low light shooting. What it does, however, have, which is very nasty, which comprises a lot of my and your photography, it has bad shadow dynamic range between ISO 100 and roughly 3200. Therefore, I cannot recommend the D70-200. Like I said, this video, along with any technical video regarding electronics and gear, fluctuates. So obviously this particular video will need to be updated from time to time. Now within that $600 to $1,000 range is the D700. Now I can and cannot recommend the D700 as she sits there. Possibly, I'm leaving subjectivity out of this. Now as an older camera, it does not do video. You need to consider that as far as what you're wanting to do. Buffer considerations you have and or need, video considerations, which it does not do. But the D700 is the highest rated DSLR Canon or Nikon for many years. Now that used to be a $3,000 camera, now it can be purchased all day long for $700 plus. I am always checking every day on prices. I've seen some really minty ones with low shutter counts that look brand new for $7, $7.25, $7.50. The D700 is Grandma's Hummer. She's a reinforced tank. She's just a dirty package of happiness. Excuse my analogy there. She's just incredible. It's an incredible camera, and it actually is fun to not have 37 and 50 megabyte per picture images. I mean, I can print out 20 by 30s on the D7100 all day long. She still is an extremely hot seller, and she's just an incredible build. If she broke tomorrow, I would not care. I would immediately purchase another D700. Additionally, I wanted to add that next week or the week after next, I myself am purchasing a D750. Its current fix on the flare issue, combined with the fact that instead of $2,200 plus, it is $1,600 now. The $1,200 to $2,000 range Nikon D750 is absolute #1 choice. Now I'm going to have to make this video a two-part series likely. Now what are you're going to immediately ask and question me about the Nikon D800, D800E, D600, and D610. I absolutely unequivocally at this time cannot recommend, unless you find for an incredible deal, any Nikon D610, D600, D800, or D800E. Used price in D600s right now are roughly about $900. That's not to say you can't find a steal on one. D610, $1,200 typically in great shape. D800, current price is $1,600 in the D800E, and I've seen more than a few for $1,400 and $1,500. But I cannot recommend that given the current cost of the full-frame Nikon D750 and its capabilities. Its swivel screen, its video capabilities, what it is for its current price. It is impossible in no circumstances that I can give any recommendation to the Nikon D600, 610, or D800E. It is just not applicable when I can use that money for the purchase of a new Nikon D750. It's just not feasible, it's not logical, nor could I draw that conclusion. Within that same price range, like the Nikon D610 is new, $1,500, the same price as the Nikon D750, also a no-go, new or used. New 1500, used 900. The D610 still has oil issues. To some, that's not an issue, but regardless of the oil issues that the Nikon D600 is confirmed to have, and the D610 still has, even if they did not have those issues, at their current price, it is impossible to logically recommend either one in new or used condition. Absolutely impossible. In the $3,000 plus range, we're actually looking at the range of $2,500 to $3,000 plus. Tune in for the next video, and then we'll be drawing conclusions about everything that's been said so far, and then we'll do a quick rundown of everything that's been said, because ultimately, like I said, this is an objective video, and I'm trying to save you money and steer you towards the best bang for your buck. And this video obviously fluctuates with time because things change both in availability and price, especially is the case where new models come out and after a short while they drop radically in price. And what that means is, like, older used models like D800, D600, D610 are then in absolutely no way do I recommend those. And that is the case now. This is a transitional period of price change where I cannot recommend the D800, D600, D610 unless it is an incredibly low, absurd price. It's impossible to recommend any of those, new or used. Stay tuned for part 2 of this video, and then we'll finish up this, and this should be the most detailed examination of current Nikon DSLRs and best recommendations for saving you money. Thank you.